The ancient Greeks practiced pederasty, and it was considered completely normal, where young boys would have relationships, but they weren't exploitative relationships. They were sexual.
Exactly.
They were also it was like a pair bonding, like a mentoring relationship. It was very strange, and I don't agree with any of this.
Somebody's going to misrepresent you and me and say we're going to abuse.
So someone is going to misrepresent me, trying to accurately represent your position as it being my position, because I know what people are like. I personally think the age of consent laws at 16 are just fine. I think they're great. I think we should keep them like that, and I say that as a father. But I'm just trying to understand. And the thing is, this is the thing. Throughout history, there have been many examples of pederasty. I mean, it still happens in Afghanistan now. I mean, no one wants to talk about that, you know. But so I can accept that there are instances where it is not necessarily exploitative. But the reason I think that an age of consent law at, say, 16, I mean, even at 14 I find too young, but that's only because I have cousins who are young, and I don't think at 14 they should be having sex with adults, you know. I think it would be exploitative whether they realized it or not, because I don't think they're mature enough to really understand what they're doing.
Well, you said that, you know, Milo, 13-year-old, having sex with a priest, like that should be fine, right? The priest and Milo should not
I'm not saying in that individual case, I'm willing to believe Milo when he said he initiated it and he knew what he was doing, right? But the reason I like age of consent laws, I approve of them, is because they're a blanket protection for people who would get into that situation without knowing exactly what they're doing, without and being, you know, exploited by an adult who was taking advantage of the fact that this young kid was, you know, I mean, you know, 13, 14, they're just reaching their sexual maturity, they've got all these, you know, confusing feelings, they're not too sure, and they are going to end up experimenting in ways they might not actually be comfortable with, whether they realize it.
Sure.
And so to make sure that none of these people are victimized in this way by an adult who's looking to exploit them, I think an age of consent law at 16, I think you know what you're doing. You know,
so you think the age of consent laws is necessary in deterring this kind of exploitation, even though there's still, you know, exploitation laws, you know? Because like children, if somebody exploits underage children, they're going to get punished.
Well, only
regardless of whether or not there's an age of consent law.
Only if there's an age of consent law, because otherwise it's not wrong. Otherwise, there's no grounds to punish them on, is there?
Oh no, there is, because like they generally exploited the child. Like what you're talking about, exploitation
how do you know it's exploitation? I mean, by what legal means is it exploitation?
That there are many variables to that, just like whether or not, you know, you decide whether the person got raped or not. You know, get what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, but
it depends on the case.
If they're young and they think they're consenting, or I mean, you know, I don't even know if they know, you know, but there are many, you know, complex factors involved.
Exactly.
But as a blanket rule, just as a general protection to guarantee the minimum number of these things happening, I think an age of consent law is a useful thing to have. And while, like I said, there are going to be examples of people like Milo who are a bit precocious and, you know, mature beyond.
I feel uncomfortable and probably like speak out against it. Let's say the priest who, you know, fucked 13-year-old Milo got arrested.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Well,
but based on your age of consent law, that would be fine.
Based on the age of consent law, he should be punished. And in Milo's particular case, then you could be looking at a situation where no harm has actually been done, and in fact Milo, he described it as a pederastic relationship, and so for him he found it beneficial and he liked it, right?
Yeah.
And he was the one initiating it. And so yeah, the priest would be punished because there was no harm done because he broke the law. I accept that. But so I can accept that there may well be individual instances where no harm is done and the law is still broken. But I think the law's existence protects many other people, a greater number of people, from being exploited. And I think that, you know, if a judge were to, I mean, if the priest was on trial and Milo was there and he was giving evidence, I imagine it would be up to the discretion of a judge to make a sensible decision in a case like that. You know, so the priest maybe get the minimum punishment or something like that. You know, but I don't think doing away with age of consent laws is a healthy thing to do.